In another major story this morning, the Biden administration is deciding to send 1,500 active duty troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, all of it in anticipation of a migrant surge, all coming before the Title 42 COVID restrictions end officially next week. Take a look at this. It's behind the border wall at a port of entry. Hundreds of folks camping out, waiting for their turn to come in. Even though several restrictions have been put in place to crack down on how many people can enter the U.S., there has been a record number of people trying to cross into America. The president has created new pathways and migration processing centers as alternative ways for those seeking asylum.
For 90 days, these 1,500 military personnel who will be sourced from the active duty component will fill critical capability gaps, such as ground-based detection and monitoring, data entry, and warehouse support until CPB can address these needs through contracted support.
Retired Lieutenant General Russel Honoré oversaw the training and deployment of over 500,000 military service members as commander of the 1st Army, and he joins us now to discuss the Biden plan. What was your top line reaction? How should we read the fact that more troops now are heading to the southern border? Do you think it's an appropriate response?
Well, it's a response that the administration deemed necessary with requests from the Department of Homeland Security, which is supervising this. It's a mission that's been repetitive over the past decade of sending troops as required, whether it was a channel with a surge or was it a capacity problem with the Border Patrol to be able to do the processing as well as the logistics. You know, when you're dealing with the suspected numbers, they're expecting some media reporting up to 10,000 the first few days once the Title 42 is lifted. That's a lot of logistics. And that to itself, I'm not sure if 1,500 plus the 2,500 they already have will have the capacity to be able to feed, house, process, and contain. So that number looks low to me, but people on the ground have come up with that estimate of what they need. I think they need to be prepared to send more, because the last thing we need is people languishing and not having proper food and water once they arrive, because there's an expectation once they arrive. This is a 2,000-mile border with about 1,200 miles of it in Texas. And the shortest point is up in the San Diego area. So I'm sure they're doing the head count using overhead systems to see where the surge is going to be. But if it's going to be as big as the Border Patrol project, up to 10,000 a day, I'm not sure if this is enough troops to handle the logistics required to house and feed, process, and fly people out. So I trust the people on the ground, but they look like a low number to me.
And again, these troops, the White House is saying, will be armed for self-defense, but will not have any kind of law enforcement role. I heard a Republican politician say last night that he did not support the move. He said, we don't need more troops there at the southern border. We need to send judges to the border to speed up the processing so that people aren't waiting weeks and weeks and weeks, whether they're allowed in or turned down. We need to ramp up the processing, and as opposed to ramping up security presence. Do you agree with that? And is the answer somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I think that's a Captain Obvious answer. Yeah, we need more judges, but you're going to need logistics to feed and care for these people. We saw what happened in the previous administration when, as well as last year, when we didn't have the proper logistics to take care of the people. Once they cross that border, we've got to feed and house them and do medical checks and process them. That's a lot of logistics. Yeah, they do need more borders, and the immigration issue, that's beyond my area of expertise. But once they arrive, we've got to take care of them, and that's why we need the extra troops there. And the administration did say this is a temporary fix to allow the Border Patrol to issue contracts to be able to do this. This is not a law enforcement mission. It's more of a humanitarian and a life-saving mission to make sure we can properly take care of people once they cross the border. There's an expectation that they're going to be in a safe environment, They'll have food and water and medicine, and that's going to take a lot of logistics.
Do you take this at all as a signal that this is a White House that feels politically vulnerable when it comes to the immigration issue? And now that, of course, Joe Biden has announced officially he's running again, he knows this is a potential liability, and so this is an attempt to look strong or stronger on this issue?
I see it as a requirement for logistics, not so much because who's in the White House. If you're going to start taking intake of 10,000 people a day, you have to have the capability to take care of them. And it would be malpractice not to put the resources there to get it done until DHS can get the contractors in to take care of it. I mean, there'll be many people that'll find a way to read this. But again, as I said, I'm not sure if the 1,500 plus the 2,500 they already have on the ground will be able to help the Border Patrol handle 10,000 people a day. And hopefully that number didn't come to fruition, but they can see them across the border. You got to realize these people, many of them, have walked 3,000 miles to come to America. They want to come here. They want to go to work. They want to have a safe place. But we got to follow the immigration rule. And something probably needs to be done, but the Congress for decades have failed to act. So this is what we've got to live with. And oh, by the way, fences won't stop people from coming to America. You build a 20-foot fence, people get a 20-foot and 1-foot ladder. People want to come to America for jobs and security.
And again, just to let folks know the calendar, the numbers we're talking about here. Title 42 ends on May 11th. A lot of these troops we're talking about expected to be in place the day before on the 10th, and they are expecting illegal crossings to surpass 10,000 per day once Title 42 is lifted. Add to your point, that is a huge number and will require plenty of logistics there at the border. We will see how it plays out. Lieutenant General Russel Honoré, always good to talk to you. Thanks for giving us some time.
Have a good day, and God bless those people crossing that border. It's a tough road.
Thank you, General. Lindsay.